Hello, welcome to my channel, Emma Jane's Garden. Today we're going to be making some wreaths. As you can see, I've already started on some. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from start to finish. It'll be a quick video because if I did a whole video it'd probably take too long. So I'll show you how I make up the straw bases, then I'll show you how I green it up, and then I'll show you how I do the embellishments afterwards and ribbons. So first things first, let's go and have a look at what foliage I've got, because that's always interesting to find out what people use. I do mixed wreaths, so it's not just holly or ivy or anything like that. I use a range of different foliages. I think it looks much prettier and more luxurious. So let's go and have a look. Okay, so first things first, I've got a basket here, my little foraging basket that my mum got me for my birthday last year. So I've got a few rose hips in here. I've got some sort of heather here, a little bit of some fir tree that I found in the garden. I actually don't know what this is, but it normally has like really lovely pink berries on it, but like a snowberry almost, but pink. But for some reason it's not had many berries this year, but the foliage is awesome to use anyway. I've got a bit of box, not a lot, because unfortunately, like many people, my box seems to be getting box blight, and so this has come from one that isn't affected at the moment. The others have all gone down with it, which is a bit of a shame. But here we go, we've still got some, so we've got some twigs. I like the ones with the lichen on. These have all come from my garden, they've just fallen from the trees, so I don't go foraging and taking anything that I shouldn't. So what have we got out here? So here I've got a massive bag of eucalyptus, which if you've watched any of my other videos you'll know is from my mother-in-law. She's got an amazing eucalyptus sort of grove in her field, so that's always really handy. Then I've got some more just leylandii, bog standard fir tree. That's actually from the climbing tree. If you watched any other videos you'll know that's from my climbing tree. I've got some pittosporum, so this is just a standard green pittosporum. I've got this, I don't actually know what this is. It has beautiful yellow, orangey yellow flowers in the spring, which I use in bouquets and stuff. And then these really awesome sort of tiny little holly type leaves, but it's super spiky. Then I've got some more fir tree stuff here, some grissolinia. This is like a hedging plant, but this is great because it's evergreen, so it stays green even out of water. And then I've also picked some, so these were from in the hedge over by the allotments, and so I've just taken a few of these, and some of them have even got the pine cones on still, which is quite cool. But that's just like a pine, isn't it? I'm not really sure exactly what type it is. And then I've also got some tree ivy. Some tree ivy there as well. So that's what I've got here. Okay, so when we're starting doing our wreaths, the way I do it is I use these raised wreath rings. These ones here. This is an, which size is this? This is an 8-inch, I think. 10. This is a 10-inch ring. So this is what I call my medium-sized. And then I've got some reel wire, which is just standard reel wire. And what I do is I get the corner, so I normally use this bit here, and I make my hook first, so the thing that we're going to hang it from. So once you've got your bit of wire, you cut your bit of wire that's at length, and then I normally use the triangle part as that's where I'm going to put my hook. So I will make my hook like that. I don't know if you can see that. So that's the hook there. And then I just wrap that around there, like that, and that. And then you've got your hook, like that. And then what I do is while you're, because obviously you're going to lose this otherwise when you're trying to do all the other bits, I always put a little bit of ribbon on, just so that I know where the hook is for when we are filling it with everything else. Okay, so we've got it like that. Next we're going to move on to putting our straw on. You can use straw or moss. The reason I use straw is purely because I try to be as eco-friendly as possible. And I feel that if you're taking moss out of the environment, you're taking the environment away from the animals that live there. So if I use the straw is a byproduct and it's readily available as well. It'll retain some moisture, but when you're making Christmas wreaths, the foliage and stuff you're using doesn't need to retain too much moisture anyway. So I've got my reel wire here and I've got my ring. So what I'm going to do is start just after my hook, and I'm just going to literally wrap that around a couple of times so that it's fixed like this. And then I'm going to grab some straw and bunch it up. And basically you're just going to put bunches of straw and then wrap with your reel wire, making sure it's fairly tight. And what you want to do is make sure that you're not going to see any of the ring as you go round. Okay, so when you get to the end of strawing up, all you need to do is cut your wire, preferably not with your best snips, which I've just done, never mind. And what you want to do is bring it round, and I don't know if you can see that, you're just going to hook it round one of the wires, round it on itself, and then you're going to just push it into the straw base like that, and then you've got a neat join, and that's your base. And all you need to do then is just go around and neaten up the edges, trying to make sure you don't cut your hook, which we've still got there, and we can still see because we've got the ribbon on it still. Like this. So that's your base already made up. Okay, so that's the straw base all done. So now we're ready for step 2, which is to put the foliage on. You might be asking why I've put straw on the base. The reason is I feel that it makes the wreaths look more luxurious and fuller, because the foliage is now going to be sitting up and off the wreath. So it's going to look really dense and full. There is absolutely no reason why you can't just put your foliage straight onto here. You could just use, so you can miss out step 1 completely and go straight to step 2, and just make sure you put your hook on the top and just put your foliage straight onto your rings. That is completely fine. This isn't a water source, so the straw isn't going to retain water. It may soak up some water, because straw will soak up some water and keep the foliage damp, but it's not going to keep fresh flowers. You won't be able to use this with fresh flowers. If you wanted to use fresh flowers, you would need to use moss. I just think it makes them look much more luxurious, more expensive, and just overall effect I think is nicer. So that's why I do it. But let's get on to step 2, because that's the fun bit. Okay, so what tools do we need to make wreaths? Well, not a lot. We need the rings, we need reel wire, we need a pair of snips, and a pair of secateurs, or a pair of scissors if that's all you've got. That's literally all you're going to need to do. Now what I'm going to do is, I've got a lot of foliage here, and I'm going to cut some of it down into smaller bits just to make it easier to deal with. But I'm the sort of person that I don't have any idea what I want to do until I start making it. Now with bits like this, so we could still use some of this. So I'm going to cut this bit here, because I'm going to be wanting to use all this. But if I cut right here where these seeds heads are with my little snips, there, I can still use that bit in my wreaths. So that's a good way of trying not to waste too much. So this is eucalyptus that I've got here. So we'll put that there. I'm not sure what type of eucalyptus that is, I'm afraid. My mother-in-law, obviously, as you can see, she has quite a lot of different types. So I'm going to have some smaller pieces as well, and then some longer bits. Again, we're going to cut. Your best bet is always to cut as close to the the leaves, and then it doesn't look like you've got an end then, and then you're able to use that bit again. So I'm going to use these. Okay, so we're having a mix. I don't want too much of the same thing, so I'll put that rest of that eucalyptus in the bucket. So what I do with my foliage, I do keep it in a bucket of water while I'm making my wreaths, because I can make these wreaths over a couple of days because I have a lot to make at this time of year. So today I have 7 to make, and then I'm going to try and make 10 if possible, but we'll see how that goes. So then we've got those bits, the Christmas tree, well not Christmas tree, the pine. So what we'll do is we'll just cut the pine into manageable sizes, like this. It's easier to deal with then. And you've got loads of things on your bench in front of you. If anybody is anywhere near Cornwall this year, and you're near the St Austell area, I am running some workshops this year, and I will go into more depth how to make these wreaths on those workshops. So if you're interested, please take a look on the link below, and it will direct you to my my Facebook page, which is where I'm doing all my bookings from. So that's my little plug for today. Cut some of these bits. So when you're making a wreath, don't be afraid to use these pieces. I mean, it looks just like you'd think, oh, I don't know. But once you pull all these off, I mean, you can just pull them. These are all usable pieces. You can see you can get a bunch quite nicely. Now I'm going to be using a slightly larger wreath because these are the ones I've got ready ordered. So these are my bigger wreaths. These are my 12-inch wreaths. Again, same thing. I've done exactly the same. I put the ribbon on the top, and I've done that. Now what I do is I always start. So we've got the ribbon at the top, and I always start at the bottom. Because this is where I traditionally put my bows, at the bottom. I mean, you can put your bow at the side, you can put it at the top. It depends where you want to put it. If you're thinking you're going to put it at the top, then start at the top. If you think you're going to be putting it on the side, start at the side. Only because when you come to finishing it, sometimes it's a bit of a fiddle and you end up with a little bit of a gap. I mean, if you do it right, you won't end up with a gap at all. But I know that if I start and finish it here, if I have made a mistake and I've got a bit of a gap at the bottom, then I'll be covering with the bow anyway. So let's get started. Now the way I do it, we're going to attach the wire onto the ring. Now if you were making this yourself and you weren't pre-making up the bases, which I have to do because of having so many ordered, you wouldn't have cut this real wire off when you'd finished making the straw base. You would have kept it still attached so that you wouldn't have any more joins. But all I've done is I've attached it to a little bit of the wire that I can see there, ready to go. So I'm going to bring it into the middle because I always bring it over and through. This is the way I do it. So I'm going to start. So you're going to make yourself some little bunches. You can always make your little bunches up before you start if you prefer to do that, and then you can work out how many bunches you're going to need all the way around. By all means try that. I find this is the easiest way for me to do it. So don't be skimpy on your bunches. You need to have as many flowers as possible. Okay, so don't be skimpy on them. You want to fill it up as much as possible. Okay, so that's one bunch. And like I say, you can do your bunches and start making them, or you can make up all your bunches to first and then you do it. But I like to lay my bunches out flat so that they lie exactly how I want them to. So I'm going to start here and we're going to just wire around in that direction. So as tight as you can get it, because you obviously don't want these to be blowing off in the wind if they're going on people's doors. There we go. Gracilia. Put eucalyptus on that one. And as you can see, it does slide around a bit, which is why sometimes if you make the bunches up first and wire each bunch first, sometimes it's a bit easier if this is your first time making your wreaths. But as you go along, I find it easier because, as you can see, you can move your bunch around. It's not quite how you wanted it in the first place. Okay, so I'm going to go around and fill this up, and I'll come back to you when I'm done. Okay, so I've obviously done the wreath here. I've just moved some of this out of the way, and as you can see, I've now got to back to the bottom, and I thought I would just show you quickly how you do the bottom, because obviously we've still got quite a big gap here that is going to need to be filled. So here's my bunch I've just made. This is how I've done all the bunches, and I'm going to lay. So you're going to lift this side up, and then I'm just going to lay this one on like that, and then pulling it tight around, and again. So I've been going around twice on each bunch like that, just to make sure that it's tight, and then we just need to make one more bunch up. So let's just use some of the eucalyptus, bit of box. What haven't we got? Let me get a bit more of the So here's a little bunch that I've got made. So the bunches are quite quick to make up. Once you get going, you kind of get into the swing of doing it. I wanted another red berry. One left. One red berry. One red rose hip left. So that's that in there like that. And then what I'm going to do, you're going to lift it up, and then again, just going to slot it in underneath, and then you're going to lift up, making sure you're keeping the one that you started with up, because what you don't want to do is flatten that one, and the one that you've just put down, you don't want to drop it and let it fall off the side. Pull tight and then go around again. There we go. And then when you lift it up, you shouldn't be able to see where the join was. If you still think you've got a bit of a gap, which I'm thinking there's still a bit of a gap there, I'll make up a small bunch, and I'm just going to fill it with a small bunch, but the same thing, lifting this side up, putting a few more in there, and then we're ready to start putting the bows and things on. Okay, so once you've done that, what we're going to do is I've cut the wire off here, so I've still got the wire. I'm going to keep it as tight as possible, and then you can still see where the wires are. So I'm going to thread this underneath that wire there, and then pull it up, pull it tight, and then I'm going to go under again, pull it tight, and then all you need to do is, I'm just going to cut that off again with my good snips as usual, and then I'm going to dig that in so that it's not going to scratch anybody's door once it's on. So you push it into the straw, and then you can't see it, and then it's secured, and then you've got your wreath.